Have you ever been to the bakery and thought, you know what would go well with this eclair? A stout. Or maybe you're at home, you're cooking some pasta and it calls for a cup of Sauv Blanc, but you don't have Sauv Blanc, but you do have lager, so you chuck that in because, you know, close enough is good enough, right? Well, when you take that idea to its logical conclusion, you get something similar to Beerkary, which is the brainchild of Ben here. So tell me a little bit about what Beerkary is.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much it. It's a bakery concept that works well with beer. The idea being that you would have hopefully a specially made beer, really nice tasty one that's got something a little bit interesting and different going on. And to that we would make a dish. We would go either a sweet thing or a savory thing. Maybe a nice smoked brisket sandwich on rye bread that might have some flavors of stout or something along those lines. Or I've even got today a cider malt, a cider vinegar bagel that's got some nice prawns and apple in it as well. So, I mean, there's a whole range of things you can do there. But using baked things, because they have yeast and malt and things like that in it.
So what prompted that idea? How did it all come about?
Something I've been thinking about for a long time. I'm a chef, work as a chef. Had been doing bakery and pastry things just more as a hobby for quite a while. And this sort of idea that in Byron Bay where I grew up, there was a bakery that was open 24 hours a day. And so after you'd been drinking or, you know, when you'd been out, you could go there and they still had feastings and sausage rolls and you know, lamingtons and things like that. And it was just full, you know, 2 o'clock in the morning, just completely full. It was like the busiest place in town. So I guess that sort of kickstarted the idea in my head that they could be something that went together a bit better. And enjoying beer as I do, and many people do as well. Yeah. I sort of realized the similarities between the process in making it, but also in some of the flavor profiles. So I think they work really well together.
Excellent. Yeah, it's a great idea, and I think it's catching on as something that's quite appealing. Can you tell me about some of your more interesting creations?
I've done a few things. Had really nice chocolate and rye. We called this the Stout Monster Cookie. It was for a Weekend of Darkness event at the Scratch. So it was like a chocolate, rye, and stout fudge biscuit. So it was like kind of semi-soft. And then that went with smoked chocolate ganache and then smoked beef fat caramel in the middle. So it was like this yay sort of round, dense thing of solid chocolate and caramel and fat and smokiness and malts. That was pretty good. Today we're actually going to do some liquid nitrogen ice cream sandwiches. So I've got a beer on tap that's been made using our rye bread, and I've used some rye flour and chocolate malt to make some biscuits. We've used some of the beer to make the ice cream base, and we've made like a Milo substitute using rye grains. Yep. And we're going to make the ice cream to order using a KitchenAid and some liquid nitrogen, smash the sandwiches together with a bit of Davidson plum jam, and then roll it in Rilo. And it's like a Mount Tambourine Black Forest ice cream sandwich. So
that sounds amazing.
Hopefully pretty good.
And pretty intricate, like obviously a lot of different elements that you've pieced together there.
Yeah, I mean, everything we do has a lot going on. I mean, I like that the beers often have a lot of different flavor profiles. There's a lot of things you can pick up as you taste them. And I think that it's really important to represent that as well. Typically we don't do things we don't match a food item to a beer style, we match it to a specific beer. Okay. So you'll taste it and go, this beer made by this company tastes of these things, and that's what we're going to work with. So, and usually the beer will be on tap, so you can have the beer and the food at the same time. Because that's a bit more interesting to me. You do more with it. So. Yeah.
So Ben, this is one of your featured creations for tonight. What's the story behind this bread?
So yeah, we have a beer that's on tonight that's made by Beard & Brow from Mount Tambourine. And they've made this beer in a traditional German style where they took rye bread that we made instead of grains. So they aged the rye bread, ground it up, and then added it to the beer. So we've actually taken some of the yeast that's been left over from that production, and we've used that with a bit of fresh rye and some sprouted rye grains to make this bread. So it's like a rye bread hot dog that's going to go with a German meatball, and there'll be some mustard and pickles and things like that on there as well. So yeah, hopefully pretty tasty. Nice little process with the beer. It's tasty beer. It smells like rye bread, so
nice. Is this a common process? I mean, having beer and bread feed back into each other?
I've had a few people say that they use like the mash from the beer, like the leftover mash after the beer production, and use that in their breads. I've never actually done that, but I've heard it works out pretty well. The yeast that's left over, I think, is not actually, like live yeast. I think it's kind of like dead yeast. Okay. But live yeast feeds really well on dead yeast. So it makes this bread just kind of explode, like it's really, really lively and nice.
I'm seeing the parallels between brewing beer and baking bread right here.
Yeah, that's it.
Living organisms and so.
Exactly. So it's tasty. It's malty and rye-like. It's pretty good. Tastes good.
Okay, and Beerkary, as I understand it, it's a pop-up bakery. So what does that exactly mean?
Basically, it means we don't have a home base. We work most of the time here where we are now, which is a place called Wandering Cooks, which is like a kitchen for rent, more or less. And it's a space where people that are starting food businesses can use the space and kind of work together to, I don't know, bounce off each other and get ideas and infrastructure. But then we go to bars usually. So we've been to Scratch Bar in Milton, Bosque in West End, Hoo Ha Bar in South Bank, a few places like that to, I guess, feed off their beer and work with their staff to make the event more interesting, but also, I guess, bring food that they wouldn't otherwise have. So, and then they give us a crowd, basically.
Yeah, of course. And I'm sure this is a question you get a lot. But would you ever consider having a physical premises, or is the flexibility of being able to go to these different events something that's really important for Beerkary?
I mean, we're working towards having a location eventually. It's an expensive undertaking.
Yep.
Bread ovens are not cheap.
Yep.
We like the way we do things now because, yeah, it does mean we can be really flexible. We can change what we do. We don't need to commit to making something for a week or a month because, you know, we've got to buy a certain amount of beer or whatever it is. So we change our menus, you know, every time we do a new event. But yeah, it also means that, you know, we don't get those savings that you might do if you really had a location. So we want one eventually, but for the moment, we're pretty happy moving around.
Excellent. And on a different note, what is it that you do outside of Beerkary?
Work as a chef. I do a few different events. At the moment, I'm without a restaurant, but hopefully opening one soon.
Yeah.
But at the moment, no current plans. But yeah, we do another event called Friday Night Snack Down, which we actually do at Wandering Cooks here as well, where we design 2 separate menus of snack foods and make them battle each other. And then whichever menu comes out on top at the end stays for the next week and write a new menu to go up against it. So hopefully a little bit creative and interesting as well.
So your whole life's tied up in food pursuits.
Food events, yes.
So what would you do if you weren't doing food? Just a left
surf?
field one. Surf, yeah.
Surfing would be nice.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I toyed around with things like shaping surfboards and that sort of thing when I was a kid. But food, I guess, had a bit more of a powerful draw for me. So I think that's sort of where I found myself. But yeah, surfing would be nice.
Well, excellent. Really good speaking to you. I've had some pastries of yours before, and I'm going to come back here this afternoon and have some more.
Good.
Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.